Are you thinking of using a paint pen to personalise some of your flower arranging pots and containers? Watch on to the end of the video and I'll share my top 3 tips with you. I picked up this pot from the charity shop. Originally it was a glossy ceramic pot with a little flower motif on the side. I covered it up with some DIY textured paint and then decided to use my paint pen to write on this lettering. So what I've got here is a ceramic pot that I should have washed before I started with a charity shop, and I have painted it with a mix of emulsion paint mixed with a little bit of baking powder to give it this textural finish. And I thought I might write the word flowers on the side here with my paint pen. What I'm going to do first of all is work out how big my writing needs to be. So I've got all my equipment here. I have got a stiff ruler, I've got my tape measure, a pencil and a piece of paper. So I want to try and get my writing as neat and as even as possible without making a mess of it. So this pot's got little containers either side. So I want to get something, oh look, 10 centimetres is there. That might be a good length to work on, and to try and do some writing that would fit across the 10 centimetres. So I'm going to draw myself a 10 centimetre mark there, and on the other side of my ruler. And then because I want to get my letters, I want it to say flowers, but I want to make sure they're evenly spaced, all my lines and what have you. So I've got a 2 centimetre mark there, 1 centimetre, 1 centimetre. So I'm going to pencil those in really lightly so I can see where I'm going with this. And then in my best neat handwriting, trying to position this out. So flowers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need to make sure my W sits in the middle of my line there. So my number 5 is where the middle is. So here goes, trying to make and then the E there. I'm going to go with my line there, and then the R, same place, and then the S, going up like that, and then the O over here, L, F. So once I've got that, how I want it, I'm going to try and create my own transfer doing this. So I'm going to pencil over it really heavily so I can see. Oops. Might make my O slightly skinnier. The W looks quite wide. Make that slightly narrower as well. Nice heavy S. So I want to be able to create a sort of carbon copy of that. So remember that thing you used to do at primary school? We used to rub on the back. Create some carbon. So, I don't know if I'm putting it onto my table or not. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Like that. And then because this is quite rough on here, I'm going to take off a section. I'm just going to see if I can lightly sand it. Smooth out, perhaps very gently, with my sanding sponge. We spent all that time painting texture on, and then smoothing some of it away just so I've got a nice, well, a flatter surface to use my chalk pen on without taking all the paint off. So And then with my letter transfer that I've created, getting that centrally between the two. I'll take that tape off. Making sure it's centred, and then to go back over the top and trace it on the letter, so I'm not actually going to be writing on, you know, totally freehand. I've got something to work on. Let's see whether it's working. Oh, it is working. Look. So, seem to have gone slightly downhill there, but never mind, it's handcrafted. And then with my paint pen, giving it a shake. Just going to do a little bit of practice. Okay, so here goes. Wish me luck. So what I'm doing here, my lettering did slip down a bit, so I'm just adjusting slightly so it runs across that top rim. Holding my breath as I go. Try not to go too wide on the W. And then matching that E up with the F. And then my S, I'm going to have to go a bit freehand, the S. It did slip a little bit, not too wide. And straight back up again. What do you reckon? That probably deserves a thumbs up, doesn't it? To bring out the textural detail, I'm going to make some DIY black wax. So, if I was to dollop out some of this wax, and put a tiny amount of acrylic paint in it to try and tone down some of that white. Oh, and then mix it together to create a black wax. I think I might have been perhaps too cautious with the black there. Experimenting. You know, I've just been watching one too many YouTube videos here. Black wax seems to be a thing. Oh gosh, that's gone really black. I've mixed it up, I'm going to go for it. Lovely. Lovely lettering. I was really pleased with that lettering. Right then, bufferoonie. You can see there where I've put the texture paint on, but the black wax is really picking that up because it's sinking into all the low-lying grooves. And then I decided to go back in with my paint pen and paint a ring of black around the top edge as if it was enamelware, but because I've already waxed my pot, the pen didn't work quite so well. What do you reckon? Yikes! Did you spot the freehand drawing I tried to do on that little bit of video? It just did not work. I tried to be all Achille about it, and it clearly isn't my strong point. Because I didn't like the drawing I put on my pot, I revamped it, and I'll show you that in the next segment of the video. Spoiler alert, I wrote herbs instead. And then I hand drew on the back a little bit of a design which I decided I didn't like. So this morning I painted out my design, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I put the word herbs on the other side, because I've had this container on my kitchen windowsill with a pot of herbs in it. You know, you buy from the supermarket, and it just looks a bit odd that I've got herbs in my vase and it said flowers on it. So I thought I might write herbs on that side, and then I could twist the vase around depending on whether I had flowers in the vase or herbs in the vase. So what I'm going to do is exactly the same technique that I used for putting the flowers on there. Roll this round and then put my paper over the top so that I don't accidentally paint the kitchen corner. And that will nestle down and won't slide around. So I've got the two little knobbly handles here. I've written out my text, herbs, and I've scribbled on the back to create some DIY carbon paper, and I'm just eyeing it up, centering it. That's where it's going to go, and then holding my lettering firmly, I'm going to go back over my text and transfer it. So although I'm going to be writing freehand, it's not totally freehand, but I think I am happier than that with that. So the thing I need to do now is to make up another batch of the black wax. So when that's dry, I can just, you know, make sure it looks consistent all the way around. You can slightly see, I don't know if you can see the little, the lines and the leaves. And that's because the paint pen is an oil-based pen, and I covered the drawing up with my water-based chalk paint. So that's the reason why it did show through, it bled through. But I think now I've put the black wax on it, it all looks perfect. So what are my top tips if you're using your paint pen for the first time? Number one, decide what it is you want to write on your pot before you start work. It's best to write on a smooth surface as well. I'd already covered my pot in textured paint. I used a mix of emulsion and baking powder, so it gave me this rough texture which I had to sand down a little bit to get a slightly smoother surface. And then don't leave it to chance. Of course, it looks like I wrote this freehand, but my advice is to sketch out what you want to say, measure it precisely, and make your own DIY carbon paper to transfer your text onto your pot, and it just makes it a million times easier. That's all from me for now, and I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to let me know how you get on. What wording are you going to use when you use your paint pen? Herbs, flowers, or something else?